What's up, guys? How you doing today? Hope you're doing well. Today we got a new video. We're going to be breaking down the Dallas Mavericks 2020-2021 offseason and predicting how they'll do in this upcoming NBA season. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So looking at their 2019-20 recap, they had their first playoff season with Luka. He led them to the 7th seed, against the Clippers. Kristaps came in. He was injured for his first season with the Mavericks. This was his first time playing, and he obviously came back a little slower. He had the ACL tear, so it took him a little longer to get used to or get back into the flow of things. He had some big games, definitely had some bad games. It was an inconsistent season, but definitely still showed promise as a all-star caliber player next to Luka. Like I said, they lost to the Clippers in the first round in 6 games. It was a closer series than a lot thought. Obviously, Luka played really well in the series, had like one crazy game where he had a 40-point triple-double and had like a game-winning 3. And then just a little stat about this team last season, they were the worst team in close games. They were, I believe it was 7-24 in games that were less than one possession. Just like a very bad record in close games. They had trouble finishing games in the fourth quarter. So let's take a look at what this team did this offseason. They acquired by trade James Johnson from the Minnesota Timberwolves, who was initially traded from the Miami Heat, and he looked like his career was on the decline. He's on a big contract right now, which is tough. He's making about $16 million a year, and he's not worth that, but he showed a lot of signs in Minnesota that he could still be useful. He's a good passer for his size, being a power forward and a good shooter. Not the best offensively, but his skills, shooting and passing the ball, are very useful for like offense. He's a good offensive player. Defensively, he does hurt you, and his contract isn't great, but he gives you like secondary passing and shooting, which is nice. Another trade they made, Josh Richardson, that was for Seth Curry. I like this. I think he's just a better fit than Seth Curry. Obviously not as good of a shooter as Seth, and less efficient offensively, but I think he's better at better at scoring on like by himself in isolation. Better defender, just a better overall player. He's more complete, more of a 3-and-D type guy, where Seth Curry was more of just a shooter, and that's what you need next to Luka. You need 3-and-D type guys. So hopefully, I think this will work out very well for them. I think Josh Richardson is just an upgrade at that position. I think they got into a good circumstance in that trade where the Sixers needed shooting, so they were willing to give up Josh Richardson, who was the better player, for Seth Curry, who's the better shooter. So then looking at, let's keep going, their draft picks, Josh Green, Tyrell Terry, Tyler Bay. None of them have really shown anything. Josh Green played 3 minutes in their first game. Free agent signed Nathan Hinton, who was an undrafted free agent, and Wes Uwindu, who I think he signed from the Magic, I believe. And then leaving in free agency is Seth Curry. He, like we said, or not leaving in free agency, leaving in by trade with Josh Richardson. Like I said, his shooting will be missed. He was a really good shooter for them. Shot like 42% from 3. Just was really efficient scoring the ball for them, but his defense definitely hurt them, and he's can't really create for himself very much. He's actually not bad at that. Like, he's good at pick and roll, but Josh Richardson, I believe, is better at like getting to the rim and stuff. So Josh Richardson just gives you more versatility at that position than what Seth Curry gave you. And then looking at this roster, so first they have Jalen Brunson, who missed the second half of last season. I forget what injury, but some injury kept him out of the bubble. He was really good for them, and he was good for them last night against the Suns. He's just a smart, like, savvy veteran point guard. Even though this is only his third year in the league, he was an older rookie, so he's like 27, 28 right now. And just makes the right plays, plays good defense, he can hit open threes, just like a pretty standard, just like solid veteran point guard, or just like someone to right the ship for you. And he's good next to Luka, because his shooting is really good and catch and shoot threes. So a good piece to have, and he's still on his rookie contract, so cheap player to be in your rotation. Another player very similar, Trey Burke. Not as good defensively, not really good at all defensively because he's just smaller. but it's kind of similar offensively, just like a smart. He's a better scorer overall. Like Trey Burke can have big nights. He shoots about 42% from three, which is really good. He kind of just came alive for this team as like an off-ball shooter next to Luka. He's kind of tough to play just because he's so small. He can be picked on defensively, but since Luka's kind of their point guard and he's bigger, it's like kind of evens out. Like he can just end up being guarded by the other team's point guard because you're not going to throw a point guard on Luka. So it usually works out, but yeah, just a really good shooter, really good secondary ball handler and scorer with Luka. And yeah, I like him. So another player, Dorian Finney-Smith, just kind of a 3-and-D guy that has really just gotten better for them every season. I think they drafted him, and at first I didn't really see much with him, but he's just become a really good player for them. He's shooting about 37% from three now, so a little above league average. Just plays really intense defense. One of those like effort guys on defense who just like prides himself in playing good on-ball defense against like other stars. So yeah, I really like him. Just another good piece to have on this team. Fits his role well. Just shoots threes and plays good defense. Tim Hardaway Jr. I've heard him be in some trade talks just because his contract is pretty large, so he is a pretty tradable player. He's still good for you. Like he gives you kind of a secondary scorer. He only averaged like 15 points last year, but next to Luka, it was just nice to have someone who could also like score 20 points if they're like just someone who can score that many points. And they needed that from him. I don't love him on this team just because I just feel like Tim Hardaway is a weird player where he's gonna like need to get like the third highest player, like player on a team. Like he's gonna get the third most shots on your team, and I just don't know if he's good enough to be getting those shots. And his contract is a little large for what he does. He's just kind of a good scorer, like microwave kind of guy. Not a great defender. They kind of throw him at small forward a lot, and he's undersized to play that, so it's tough. But yeah, his shooting and scoring next to Luka is nice. Defensively, not the best. And then Maxi Kleber. I actually really like Maxi Kleber. He's like a stretch four kind of. He can play five, but he's a little small. What I like about him, though, is his defensive versatility. He will guard guys like Giannis, Kawhi, Paul George, just like all the wings. He's just actually really quick-footed for his size and has quick hands and just tries really hard on defense. So I really like him, especially with him and Dorian Finney-Smith. They actually do have some guys who can guard opposing wings pretty well. So I do like him for that. And, you know, his shooting on offense is pretty good. So just another 3-and-D guy for them. Dwight Powell. He's a good, like, rim running center. Very smart. Shoots well from the field. Just run, jump, dunk guy. Not much else. He can shoot a little bit, but he only shot like 25% from three last year. He has some passing ability. Not a great player. Just like a good veteran center, and he's on a pretty reasonable contract, like $10 million a year. So a good player for them to have, and just like a lob threat for Luka. So let's get into the stars of these teams. Kristaps Porzingis, who's injured right now. He got injured in the playoffs against the Clippers, so he's not playing yet this season, and he missed a lot of last year. With him, he's probably the biggest concern with this team just because they did pay him the max, and you would like him to be that second star next to Luka. Like, that's what they're paying for him to be, and that's what they're hoping. That was that they traded for him, gave up first-round picks, and he definitely can be. Like, he's talented enough 100% to be the second best player on a championship team, I believe. It's just his shoot, like how healthy can he stay? Like, can he stay on the court? And even when he's on the court, he's one of those players that just gets these little dings and just like gets stinked up, like little things. Like I'm a Knicks fan, so I used to love this player. And back in 2017-18, when he was a all-star for us, he started out the year averaging like 27 and 10, and then just as the year progressed, just like his totals would just drop, and like towards the midway of the NBA season, you could tell he was exhausted, and just like he had this one quote where he was like, "I'm just so tired," and the season's just really longer than I thought. And he's only averaged like 18 and 5 towards the end of that season before he got injured with the ACL tear. But he's definitely one of those players that I would like to see him play a full 82 games at an all-star level, just so I know he can do that. But yeah, till I don't think there's many questions about the player. The only question I'd say is he needs to become more of a inside presence. He's a little too perimeter oriented. I think it's fine because that's like where the league is going. but he's really bad at taking advantage of like switches against smaller defenders. So yeah, he just needs to, that would be the two things: stay on the court more and just get better at taking smaller defenders in the paint. So yeah, let's look at their star, Luka Doncic. He's amazing. He's 21 years old and probably a top 5, top 10 player in the league right now. I love him. He's just reminds me of a young LeBron, or just like those types of players who can just carry a team to greater heights than they should be carried to. Like, he's just such a one-man offense. Like, he just does everything. And it's not like Russell Westbrook that one year where he's just getting these stats to get these stats on a bad team. It's like everything he does is towards winning basketball. So he's just an amazing player. I think the sky's the limit for him. He could be a top 10 player of all time, and I don't think that's hyperbole at all. He's just has such a feel for the game at such a young age. Just like, because that's the thing. A lot of the times when someone's young and amazing, it's usually they're athletically gifted freaks like Giannis or Zion, or just guys like that who just come in and it's like, oh, they're men among boys out here. Like, they're just so freaky. But he's not athletically gifted more so than any NBA player. It's just his skill for the game is at the level of a veteran. Like, the highest, his basketball intellect is so fucking high. Like, that man's a genius on the court. So just like a really great player. And I think as long as you have Luka on your team, you're at least in the conversation for a championship, I would say. I know it sounds crazy because he's only 21, but I think that's what the caliber of player he is. The only thing I would say he could improve is his three-point percentage. He's a good three-point shooter. Like, I trust him to make a three when he needs to, but his three-point percentage was only 31% this year, or last year. So if he could just become more efficient, I could see his scoring total going up even higher, like above the 30s. So yeah, if he could just make a little bit more threes a game, that could help out. So yeah, looking at this team's prediction, I think this team has, like I said, endless potential just because Luka's on the roster, having a 21-year-old who he's making $8 million a year, so you don't have to pay your best player and a top 10 player in the NBA max money yet. So yeah, I wish this team had more talent around him. I do think this team is good enough to be a top 4 seed in the West as constructed. It would mean Luka would have to play at an MVP level, but I think he will do that, and I think that could happen. And that, with the combination of how Carlisle is really good at using like fringe players. Like, if I just went down the list and there's not a single player on that roster that I dislike who's getting minutes, besides maybe Tim Hardaway, but he's still useful for them. They just have a lot of 3-and-D guys, a lot of good shooters around him. It's just a perfectly constructed team around Luka of role players. You would like to have one other like difference maker to really push him over the top in the West that's loaded, but as constructed, it's just a really good team around Luka, and I think that's enough to get you in the top 4 of the West. At least that's how I feel about Luka. I think he's that caliber of player. So let me know what you think. If you think they're going to be worse or better than I predict, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.